Today on Window Read, we're reading a sci-fi short story by Ray Ziemer. It's called Birger Hellstrom. R.G. Ziemer contributes short fiction to literary journals and is a prize-winning poet. His novel, The Ghost of Jamie McVeigh, was published in 2019. He contributes short fiction to literary journals and participates in several writing groups, open mics, and reading venues in the Chicago area. More information about Ray can be found at https://rgziemer.com. Today we're reading Ray's story called Birger Hellstrom. The other day, looking through a burst of scatter beam transmissions, I stopped to check out one of those interactive trivia quizzes. What's your galactic IQ? Or something like that. Test your knowledge of the 25 most significant discoveries in the universe. It was pretty tough, with some really obscure questions. But on one item in particular, I thought, hey, I know this one. When I checked the answer, though, I had it wrong. Well, they had it wrong. So I'm sending this out to set the record straight about what really happened on Zebulon Four. I wasn't even supposed to be there on that frozen rock. As shuttle pilot, I should have finished my couple of runs and zoomed off to tuck myself snug on the orbiter. But a monster hemispheric storm blew over just as we were getting gear unloaded at the science base and stowed to Chief Boren Crawl's at satisfaction. Wind velocity hit 300 kph in a bleak sky streaked with super-ionic ammonia. Hydrochloric ice pellets drummed on our helmets and pitted our faceplates, forcing us to huddle under shelter. It wasn't until day 3 things let up a little and I could stagger out to the shuttle. Of course, it had been pretty well pummeled. So I was stranded with these 2 planetary science profs until another ship could be sent down. The one bright spot of sunshine on that dismal planet was Birger Hellstrom. Birger was an optimist, which he demonstrated by continually challenging me to hopeless games of chess. He was trained as an exobiologist, and it was a great irony that he spent his days searching for life on frozen, wind-raked chunks like Zebulon Four. We cannot overlook any single chunk. It's only a matter of time, he persisted. The more worlds we discover, life has to be out there. He was a bit older than me, stocky, with close-cropped hair, gray as Zebulon Four's Perillian sky. I just shook my head. You're dreaming, B. Earth dreams. You've been out here long enough to know better. How long? 20 years, he said, and 20 worlds. And each one dead as the last. I punctuated that by flicking off a rook, closing in on his position. He grinned amiably, but his deep voice took a reverent tone. Each one brings us closer to finding life. Believe me, it is out there, my friend. The wind howled. You hear that, Bee? I sat back, folding my arms across my chest. The sound of the tempest wavered but never ceased. That's death out there, pal. Don't you ever forget it. He cocked his head, listening. Who said it shouldn't be both? Can you even have one without the other? Studying the illuminated board, he grimaced and slid his threatened queen to safety. I like to have more of one than the other. I gestured my knight to vaporize a bishop. Check. The wind never stops on Zeb 4. But inside the compound's thin walls, it was comfortable. With full supply and life support functioning, we had plenty to do. You wanted to keep busy, because the moment you stopped to think, there was the wind, waiting for your brain. As a spacer, I suppose it was particularly maddening. We're used to the long silences of the void, with cryosleep carpeted by subsonics overlaid with the hum of machinery. But Chief Science Officer Borman Krall kept us at it every minute of duty. He was a by-the-book type, as humorless as Hellstrom was good-natured. He made no effort to be friendly, taking every opportunity to remind me he was in charge. Not being in the habit of taking crap from profs and data soldiers, I bit my tongue and resisted clever comebacks. It was a military post, and I had to respect his rank. We kept in contact with the orbiter at first. Krall always represented. I'll say this, he kept his icy demeanor even when it was bad news. Zeb 4 base, we are transmitting weather data for this sol and upcoming period. Copy that, Krall responded. What is the forecast? Sorry to say, base, this atmospheric event wants to keep on coming. Time frame? No end projected. Right now, we are predicting minimum 30-40 sols. Hellstrom and I looked at each other. But Krall didn't miss a beat. Resupply? No can do, base. We cannot risk a shuttle until conditions improve significantly. You already have one craft and our pilot there. We cannot afford to lose another. Krall gave me a sour look, as if it were my fault. Current ground conditions are easterly winds at 650 kph with gusts to 720. Current temp reads 44 K. What would signify improvement? Will advise, base. We kept circadian ship time at the base, and another chronometer kept Zeb time relative to the planet's slow revolution. You'd never get used to about 192 Earth-hour sols to a day on Zeb 4. Not that it mattered in terms of sunshine, of which there was none. Just 8 ship days of inky black sky with rolling, shapeless clouds, followed by 8 days of streaky gray from horizon to horizon. The landscape, such as it was, had a few interesting features and Hellstrom was looking forward to exploring. But the windstorm had snuffed out his plans. Day 20 of the storm, we lost all exterior cameras and lights. Without the surface views, it was like we'd been swallowed by some behemoth. Inside the quivering body of the base, we lived and worked, but had no eyes to the world outside. Our ears became sensitive, tortured by the incessant wailing of the wind. As the storm assailed us, Hellstrom grew restless. "I want to go collect samples and explore that mineral ridge," he muttered. That was an upfold area above us on the plain, where the disabled shuttle sat under its shredded tarps. "Yeah, I'd like to get out there to scorch it with rocket fire on my way off this rock," I responded to his opening gambit by opening a lane for my bishop. Hellstrom shook his finger at me. "Be careful when you go, and don't use thrusters near tumbled rock piles at the edge. They look very promising." He wiggled a finger, prancing his knight to the center. "I can't believe you're serious." I decided to castle early. Hellstrom was starting to play more aggressively. "Everybody else is looking for organic compounds in primordial soup, in shallow lowland seas or brackish ponds. You think you'll find life clinging to a cliffside under winds that kill things?" "Mm-hmm." He stroked his chin and pushed a pawn. "Maybe deadly for us, but not for life born in this environment. Who is to say that life could not arise and evolve in kinetic energy of this wind?" Kral walked over from the kitchen console. "You know the research plan. Anyway, Hellstrom," he admonished, "Command has prioritized sample collection only from the 3 sectors already mapped." "Yes, I know. Birger nodded and waved his hands impatiently. "Starting with that methane lake on the plains down below?" I asked. "Right," Kral lectured. "It's one of the warmest areas, absorbing maximum solar energy." I just shook my head. "Sorry, Chief, but even a dumb jarhead like me can see that there's not enough solar energy hitting this ice ball to keep the lights on." Kral started to speak, but Hellstrom pushed back his chair abruptly. "Gentlemen." Outside, the wind groaned a wavering, low, mournful sound. "You know what I think," I said. Kral stood there with his hands on his hips. Hellstrom shook his head. "That is energy. That is life." A few days later, we lost the weather feeds. It hardly mattered. We could hear the screaming gale battering our thin, extruded walls. "Zeb 4, how are you holding up?" Updates still came in on schedule from the orbiter. "Command," Kral responded, "we have input failure on ground conditions. Still no exterior power elements. Weather data for this sol and forecast is downlinked." "Copy that," Kral responded. "What is the forecast?" "Base, jet stream data suggests these conditions will continue another 20-30 sols." Kral examined the text scrolling down the screen, reading aloud. "Temps 36K. easterly winds at 740 kph. Those data are from the stratospheric reading space. Estimated ground conditions are considerably more severe. But we don't have equipment in place to verify. Around day 35, we lost all communications. Besieged by the storm blast, we were now both blind and mute. The keening of the wind trembled in our bones, fluttering our eyelashes, vibrating our teeth. Birger paced, staring at the blank screens. I could go out and fix antenna, he offered, or run new cable, maybe. Crawl shook his head. Nobody's going anywhere. It's nothing to me. I was raised on Asgard, you know? For me, this is just walk across square. Just a summer breeze to me. After Crawl left the room, I put a hand on Hellstrom's wrist and put our chess game on hold. Seriously, B, you know you wouldn't last an hour out there in this storm. He waved me off. Pah! I know how to do it. On Asgard, we often move about with tethers and anchors. Not to worry. It struck me that I absolutely should be worried. Just have patience, B. The wind will drop pretty soon. You'll see. Ah, but you are missing the point. It is precisely the wind I need to study. The effect of super-ionic wind on organic compounds. Nowhere before on these worlds are we seeing building blocks of life subject to such energies. You won't see it either, with your eyeballs frozen to the inside of your helmet. Pah! He glanced over his shoulder. I know how to do it. I have plan. Sometime during his watch on day 43, Birger Hellstrom stepped out through the hatch into the blasting storm winds of Zebulon Four. We never heard the airlock cycle, and it wasn't until morning watch that we realized he was gone. He'd taken a motorized cart and rolled out a couple of spools of monofilament and vacuum cable. Damn idiot. Damn Asgard. Anchors and tethers. Damn it. I banged into the lockers for my e-suit. Boar and Crawl stood in the doorway. What do you think you're doing? He can't have gone far, Chief. I'll get him back in. Stand down, Spacer. You're not going anywhere. Chief, I know where he's gone. Hell, I could just follow the cable trail. Hellstrom's gone out with enough cable to hang himself and his science career. I'm not breaking protocol by losing another body in this wind sink. Protocol? To hell with that. I'm going out to get him. Crawl pointed a bony finger at me, shaking. Stand down right now or consider yourself on report. I'll bring you up on charges for compromising this mission. The wind screamed relentlessly beyond the bulkhead. I hesitated, to my everlasting regret, and Crawl took back control. March yourself down to HQ for comm check, Spacer. I bowed my head and followed orders. 8 days later, the wind subsided and skies cleared to Zeb 4's murky equivalent to a summer day. The main hatch was blocked and frozen in place. Hatch B creaked and groaned and shut itself off before the servos could overheat. I ended up crawling out through the escape hatch topside. It was Birger Hellstrom blocking the main hatch, anchored to the jambs and frozen to the handle. A lot of ice rubble and debris had piled up there, and it looked like he'd been trying to clear the opening. He had fashioned some remarkable gear from material on hand. A duro-coated polymer cloak with a cowl protecting his helmet. He'd have been just fine if not for a jagged shard of ice that must have hit him at high velocity and tore open his suit. Hard to say if the noxious atmosphere killed him before he was flash frozen where he stood. Cutting him loose was one of the worst jobs I've ever had. Before I started with the torch, I had to lever the frozen mow cart out of the way. It was loaded with the standard sample cases in a couple of sizes, but right on top was a sort of open work basket Birger had fabricated from monofilament and electrical wire. Unlike the sealed cases, the specimens within were exposed to the elements, exposed to the wind. When I looked inside, well, you know what I saw. Everybody's seen the pictures. The video of the withering crystalline structures branching and dividing, rejoining in convoluted organic display. The first manifestation of extraterrestrial life ever discovered by humankind. They were, well, extraordinary. Inside the laboratory, their translucent beauty quickly dulled. Their delicate structure crumbled, and they decomposed to sear blue dust. But upon the mineral ridge, where screaming gusts geared along the cliff edge, whole colonies of the creatures thrived, peeking out of crevices and waving tendrils in the wind. I didn't have much time to ponder the significance of it all. When the relief crew arrived, I had plenty to do, working to get my shuttle repaired. I avoided crawl as much as possible. When I finally blasted off from the high mesa, carefully vectored east into the wind to protect the wretched organisms, I was just happy to put that frozen lump of planet behind me. But I should have spoken up about what happened on Zebulon Four. Naively, I thought the facts spoke for themselves. I realize now, of course, it was Boren Krall who wrote and published the reports and was credited with the research. It's Boren Krall whose name appears in the list of scientific trivia. The first man to identify life on an alien planet. Well, the world should know the truth. It was Birger Hellstrom's dream and his discovery.